Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all you beautiful people. We are back for FRS Season 6 in Xbox Division 1. Now here we are in Spain. It's our first visit back to the track since Season 3. Only the second time we've been here in an official season. Here's a look at the track here. 16 corners, 4.6 kilometers around, 2 DRS zones, and it's a typical testing track for F1. So it's a good mixture of mid, low, and high-speed corners, and of course that big, long straight. 579 meters from pole position to turn 1. It's the longest run we have of the season, so plenty of opportunity to slipstream down into the first of our action zones on the track, of course, with the longest DRS straight there. Down into turn 1 is your best overtaking opportunity. The switchback of the right, left, and then right of turns 1, 2, and 3 creates some good racing. And turn 10 is the next action zone. At the end of the second DRS straight, a reprofiled turn 10. It's much more of a sweeping left-hander now. Braking zone still pretty heavy. Now we'll take a look at the tires. The soft, medium, and hard. The mediums being about 0.7 of a lap slower. The hards 1.4 a lap slower. However, life, the softs very short lifespan. The mediums 21 laps, and the hards should go about 26. So we'll see strategy-wise which drivers opt for which type of tire compounds. Now we'll get ready to jump straight into qualifying here. As our typical FRS format, 18-minute qualifying session, 50% distance race. And here we are setting our first flying lap of the day. Down into turn 1, a few other cars making their way out of the pit lane now as we are one of the first. So find that brake marker at about that access road into turn 1, then sweep through turn 3, nearly flat out, a tiny hair of a lift just to make sure the rear end stays planted. It's a banker lap, so we're not going fully forward, just under the gantry. You're gonna brake and turn a little wide of the apex and all the way up this hill, trying to accelerate, get the power down. Brake just at this little crest into turn 6 or 5, and then down the hill for a tricky switchback here. Turn 7 and 8, you got to kind of use the camber on the curb and then run right out to that sausage curb. Very easy to lose the back end of the car there. Turn 9 is high speed, trying to keep it so you can't go fully flat out, and then here we are into the second DRS zone. Brake just around the 100-meter board there, sweep through, trying to get the traction down, just waiting until it hooks up. And then right-handers, the corners come quick and fast there. And there we go into the final chicanes here. Tricky little bit, make sure that the car hooks up, and then get the power down for the final corner. Flat out right-hand sweeper. Open the rear DRS there and cross the line, and we've set an 18.0 for our first flying lap. So here we are on for the second flying lap, sitting provisionally P7 now. A little bit of a twitch trying to get on the power for this one, so should cost us a little bit of time. You can see we're already red on the delta by about a 0.5 of a second, so not the most ideal way to get down into turn 1, but looking for that access road once more. Turn it in, and now you can take a little bit more of this curving, mount it, and we've gained a little bit of time, but this is where we were able to keep the car a little bit more centered, flat out. Gained about a 0.1 of a second through the first couple of corners as Queasy Pluto, our teammate this season, gets out of the way. We are coming up behind the McLaren of that one kid who stays ahead of us for this left-hander and is then going to bail out of the way as we get on the power. A little bit quicker out of the corner there, getting on the throttle and pitch it around up the hill. We've gained a good 1.5 that time. We're about 0.3 up on our previous best lap now, almost 2.5, about a 1/4 of a second. So opening that next DRS, carrying steady down the back straight. Now trying to hold a little tighter to the inside, not run out quite as wide, getting the power down. You see full throttle, hit the brakes, try and double apex this corner as it swings out now into the final sector. Lots of sausage curbs here that can upset the car. We've gone a little bit deep there, and you can see we click that curb, and that has unsettled the car just a little bit for the final set of corners. We lose a bit of time, but we are going to improve overall. And that is going to put us down to the 17.687, provisionally just behind our teammate in 5th now. So we wait for the other cars to come through. We're going to go ahead and jump to the end of the qualifying session here. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. We're going for our final flying lap. We've slipped behind Voki in the qualifying order. We've gotten a better launch out of the final corner this time, so we've improved by about 1/100 of a second. And we're going to see if we can find some time through turn 1, 2, and 3. A bit more attacking on the curbing of turn 1. Manage it through turn 2. Flat out turn 3. We're able to just about pick up a 0.5. Straddle this curb as we get on the brakes for turn 4. We lose a little bit of time on the entry to understeer, so we've not quite gained as much, and we're fairly deep on this corner here. We're trying to straighten it out as early as we can to get the power down and sweep through turns 7 and 8. A little slow on the entry, but we carry a little more speed on the exit. We're just about flat with our previous delta, only a couple hundredths of a second in the meantime, almost completely even through the second sector split now, as we have that Aston Martin that we have to go around on the track there. And we did make a mistake on the previous flying lap through the final sector. So this time, as there's a little bit of a twitch getting on the throttle, we do have an opportunity to maybe pick up some time in these last 2 corners. You can see just pitching it through and much better exit as we're gaining time through the final corner, opening the DRS, and we're going to improve by about a 10th. So that's going to move us just ahead of Voki and right behind our teammate for P6. So the final qualifying order: Cryptic up top, Nemesis, LC Fighter, MJ Povey, Queasy, Pluto, our teammate, ourselves in 6th, Voki in 7th, Issei in 8th, Lawrence Boers in 9th, and Pepmeister in 10th. So here we are on the grid as the 5 red lights come on. We are opting for the medium tire. It should be a one-stop strategy. A little slow on the reaction. The tire is very cold getting off the line. And we do have Voki going on the outside of us. Lawrence gets a great run down into turn 1. We lift and brake. Just try and sneak our way through carefully. We've got 2 red arrows near us, so we're going to stay very wide of the apex for turn 2. And now into turn 3, we've gotten ahead of Voki. Now we do have to kind of lift out and make sure we're not going to get caught up by this group side by side as Queasy and Lawrence are fighting each other. That's going to give Voki a bit of a run around the inside of us as we break now down into turn 5. Voki side by side, actually his nose just a little bit ahead. We're going to use the ERS, the extra battery power, to launch down. A little bit late on the brakes, and we've gone deep onto the curbing. You cannot control the car, and we have collected Voki, unfortunately, and we are into the wall with damaged front wing. So a little spin turn to get back on track. We do have a damaged wing, and we are going to have to come into the pits, make that wing change, and we're going to have to change our strategy, go on to another set of tires. The game is suggesting going onto the soft tire and then making another stop for the hards later on in the race. At this time, I think I'm going to just go onto the hard compound tire and go deep into the race and make the change later on. Now, these medium tires should have lasted about 15 laps or so. However, they've only gone the 1 lap now, and we are going to be taking them off. But unfortunately, we are right at the back after getting ourselves into that. I was overcorrecting. I was expecting Voki to stick his nose up on the inside of the corner like he did before. And as a result, I made a mistake and went a little bit deep, trying to be too cautious, too cute with it. But here we are up on the jacks, the white wall, hard tires going on, the front wing getting put onto the car now and released. And away we go. It looks like Voki had to make a front wing change as well as he's getting released in front of us. And now we are going to go ahead and get back out on track right at the back of this 18-car grid this week. And not the ideal way to start off the brand new season here in Season 6. Of course, tires are quite cold coming out, and you can see Voki made that mistake on the cold tires. That's given us the position ahead of him. You just have to be careful on the throttle until those tire temperatures at the core get up into the green area where you get that full grip. But you've definitely got to tiptoe your way around on heavy fuel, and we'll go ahead and try and get back into this race. We're 30 seconds off the tail end of Issei and quite a lot of work left to do, but if we can stay mistake free, we might be able to start clawing our way back into the race. We've got about 3 seconds to Voki behind us, and we're just going to keep pushing on as the hard tires are just now at about 81C, getting into that green range. So we are starting to get a little bit more grip, and we'll be able to really push on them like normal at the start of this next lap. But definitely not an ideal start to the season. Spain, tricky track to get back in it. Unlikely to have too many safety cars, I think, with the quality of racers that we have in Xbox. Voki is actually starting to come back at us a little bit. 2.4 seconds behind, and we are about 31 seconds off of Issei. However, we are fully up into the correct temperature window, so now we can really push on. We're going to jump ahead now, lap 5 of 33. Voki's now about 8 seconds back of us, has had another mistake, and we are catching up to Chuck SRQ, who has had some mistakes of their own. So now only 3.2 seconds back of Chuck and starting to chase him down on the medium tires. One of the drivers that was part of Division 2 last season, so it's an opportunity to try and chase down there. At this point, I'm just kind of looking at the timing screens. Vickers now 19 seconds ahead, Don Mao 24 seconds, so we've closed up some time to the cars ahead of us. SA is kind of picking their way through the field, so it's not completely off the table that we could get ourselves back up maybe into the points as Chuck makes a mistake through turn 7 and is out of the, or not out of the race, but off the track there, and that is a mistake. We moved ourselves up one position now. Voki's still about 8 seconds back. He's managed to make a little bit of time. And big snap of oversteer. They're just trying to push too hard on those rear tires. Luckily able to collect it up before there was any big issue, but you're going to see that time delta to Voki really come down. It goes from about 8 seconds down to 7. So I lost almost an entire second, maybe even a little more with that mistake. But now we've got Vickers and Clapjack about 20 seconds up the road from us as we continue on through lap 7. And Chuck has fully DNF now, so he's out of this race completely. We're jumping ahead a couple more laps, lap 7 of 33. Now Spen is in the pit lane ahead of us, making the first stop of the day off of those medium tires. We were able to clear him. I believe he had some damage. He's also got a 5-second time penalty, I believe, from speeding in the pit lane. But we are continuing to pelt around. The hard tire is very resilient around here. You can see only 17% wear at the most on the fronts so far into this race. They aren't quite resilient enough for me to take them all the way to the end of the race from lap 1. So I will need to make a stop before the end of this race, or maybe keep an eye on the percentages. If I can conserve tires, there's a chance I might be able to push them to the end, but not recommended. So it's really going to be more about deciding how far I want to take them in, how far I think they have good performance, and then opting to go either back onto the mediums I started or onto a set of softs a few laps later into the race. But here we are, lap 9 of 33, and we have Captain Clapjack off the track there, and we're only 9 seconds back of Vickers, 15 seconds back of Don Mao, now up into 14th place as Spen is still behind us, about 11 seconds the gap there. So we've made a couple of positions now from people making mistakes, and we are just kind of gradually catching some of the other cars ahead of us. Now, we're definitely not catching the outright lead pack as we're lapping in the high 21s, low 22s, and they're lapping closer into the 21s. So I'm losing probably about a second a lap to the ultimate pace with being on an unideal strategy. But it looks like Don Mao has made a mistake. He's slipped behind Vickers with the timing screen holding station for a moment. So yeah, now he's fallen back. Only about 7.8 seconds left. He's on his way back on the move again. But with those two drivers ahead of us constantly making a few mistakes here and there, we just need to stay steady and keep going and try and get back up to the rest of the pack here. It's only a few positions to get into the top 10 to start making some points, but tires are on 24% now, 9 laps into their stint, so you would expect the 75% mark is only going to be about, 27 laps into the race. And that's where you start to risk punctures. So we are going to come up a little bit short of the race distance, so we're definitely going to have to make a change. Now, if we can take them all the way to lap probably about 25, we could go on to the soft compound tires, maybe have a little extra pace as Don Mao is into the pits. We'll see, are we going to be able to overtake him as he's making his change? We're fully deploying the battery here to try and charge our way past him and make sure, and yes, we passed him in the pit lane. We are through and up into 13th place. Vickers 8.6 seconds ahead. Stanier 23 seconds ahead. He's got plenty of fairly similar pace, I would say, to me. Maybe a tiny bit slower, but with 23 seconds of advantage, I mean, we're only talking about a couple of tenths here and there. We're going to continue on, get ready to jump, make another time jump up ahead, I would believe. Spen still about 11 seconds back. He is carrying that 5-second time penalty, so he's going to be a driver to keep an eye out on for the rest of this race. Because he did go on to hard tires that will have enough life to get to the end of the race. He pitted so many laps later than I did. So likely we're going to have to try and chase down Spen for whatever position they are in at the end of this race. Habs fan Nick is into the pit lane, although well ahead of us. He just got passed by Spen, who was 20 seconds ahead. You only lose about 20 seconds in the pit lane. Vickers, though, into the pits on the very next lap here. Habs fan Nick already on their way to the pit exit, and we should pick up the position from Vickers as they were only 8 seconds back. However, they went on to the medium, or no, they're going on to the hard. Thought they might have gone on to the medium, but it just hadn't changed yet. So they will easily get to the end of the race from where they are at as well. So I'll have to likely be catching them up. Habs fan Nick comes out 17 seconds up the road. So here we are, lap 14 of 33, approaching the halfway point of this one. Issei 6 seconds ahead. We're about 15.8 behind Habs fan Nick, so he's still gaining some time on us. Does have much younger tires than we do, since we had to put them on at the very start of the race after that lap 1 incident. But we are catching up to the Alpha Tauri of Issei, who has made a spin there, and around the outside we go. They're making a mistake on the fresh hard tires. They come out of the pits rather cold, and he just wasn't careful enough and had a bit of a spin. Now they are only 1.9 seconds off the back of us as they get going again. And Issei is a driver that is a little bit quicker than I am, so I would expect they have the pace to try and come back at us, as Vickers is out of the session, although I believe they retired in the pit lane. So there's no danger of a safety car, although I say danger, it would definitely help me out if there was a safety car to bunch the pack up, because then I could get onto a decent tire strategy and get back up to the pack. Stanier's into the pit lane now, making his choice to make the swap from the mediums onto the hard tires. The softs really don't have great life, so it's not one you can really push too far. And at this point, I'm just kind of trying to see how far into the race I want to go on these hards before I make a switch back onto the medium or soft tires. But here we are, coming out of the pits, only about a second back of Stanier, and Petmeister ahead, or no, that's Vickers' car retiring, sorry. Petmeister, though, 15 seconds back, and we do have a good run on Stanier, who is on those colder hard tires, so he's going to have a bit of a problem. He's gone wide through turn 4 here, so we're just going to sneak right up the inside, use the extra grip, and he's late, misses his braking point on those soft tires. They kind of locked up probably, and gets into the back of us. Luckily, we don't get spun around because of it. And of course, my braking point is going to be a little earlier than some of the other drivers at this stage because of how aged my tires are. 14 laps into this race, so they've definitely taken quite a bit of life out of them. We have cleared about a second to Stanier now. Issei still 2.3 back of us, not really making huge inroads. And now we do have Stanier, who is in between. So I'm hoping at this stage that those two will start fighting, because I need to try and build whatever gap I can to them. Habs fan Nick's up to 18 seconds ahead now, so he's managed to put a few seconds of overall pace on me. I'm sure I did lose probably about a second and a half from being that tap in the back end of turn 5. But we're going to jump ahead now, lap 17 of 33. MJ Povey having an issue here on his hard tires. Only down in 9th, and he was having a problem with his wheel, I believe. But it's 6 seconds out ahead of us now. We are closing up. Stanier still 1.8 back. Issei 2.4. So they're still kind of holding station near each other. Not really fighting to gain me too much time. But you can see from the tire wear in the bottom right, 44% wear on that front left. So we are, once it hits about 50, we do start to lose a bit of performance and grip. Although the hard tire, it's less pronounced than some of the other tires. As we continue to just keep pushing on, trying to turn fast laps, but consistent laps. I'm not trying to make any kind of mistakes. I would rather just keep going, as we have worked our way back into 10th places. Povey with 10 quick seconds of time penalties into the pit lane and is retiring from the session here. So Povey is out of this race. That is going to promote us one more position up to P9. And at just past the halfway point of this race, we are in the points peg positions. However, we do still have to make a stop. There's unlikely that these hard tires will get all the way to the end of the race. So now it's just about trying to pick the right tire, the right time that I can try and make a charge and catch up to the back of the pack. So here we are, jumping ahead now, lap 21. That one kid into the pit lane off of the medium compound tires. And Issei about 1.8 behind. Stanier still 2.4, so those two still going. And that one kid coming out of the pits just ahead of us. He's on the medium tires. He is still going to have some not as bad of warm-up issues as the hard, but he is going to be slow through these first couple of corners as we're going to try and find our way past the McLaren. You can see how much time we're gaining in the corner. Looking up to the inside, we're going to find a braking point. We've gone a little bit deep on a lockup, but we've managed to hold relatively tight to the apex. But now that puts Issei only 1.5 seconds back as nearly get collected by that one kid. Driver's really struggling with the cold tires, not getting the car slowed down early enough, and potentially, but we are losing time now to Issei, having to try and make that move past the McLaren here. So we've lost a couple of tenths, and now Issei is going to have DRS, I believe, on the McLaren, so it's going to allow him to close up. We're going to choose to go for the pit lane now. Issei is just about 1 second off the back of us now, and that is, we don't want to be giving up any more time. With 22 laps of this 33-lap race, plenty of time for the medium compound tire. I think the soft wouldn't have quite made the impression that it needed to. So we're going to come in, spot our braking point very early on it, just a safe entry, not to pick up any track limits, or not track limits, but a speeding in the pit lane penalties. And then away we go. So Issei out of the session. He's retiring in the pit lane. We are sitting in P11. Spen has already made their way past us. They have a 5-second time penalty as we get back to a racing speed. We'll see what the actual gap is going to be when we come out and up to racing speed. It's about 11 seconds, 10.2 at the moment. It'll go up a little bit more as the tires still need to be brought up to temperature. Big snap of oversteer. Almost lost the car there on entry, but we were able to gather it up. And now 11.1 seconds the gap. It should be a few corners shorter than the hard tire for warm-up, but still not a great tire to warm up on. It's just about getting into the temperature window that is needed. But 11.5 seconds, 11.6 now is the margin. So we need to try and find about 6 seconds to get in that, or 7 seconds rather, to get inside that 5-second mark to get into the points paying position. So now it's time to just push on, give as good as these medium tires can give us, and try and close the gap. But the hard tire, very resilient, holds its pace quite well. If he's lapping in the low 121s, it's going to be quite a task to try and catch up. We do have a fair bit of battery to spend, so we are going for our first flying lap after the pit stop. 11.6 seconds is the current gap. So using a lot of that battery down the front straight into turn 1 to try and catch up. But we're going to jump ahead now. Lap 32 of 33. Only 2 laps left to go in this race, and we've closed the gap to 6.7 seconds. The last couple of laps before this were pretty nip and tuck for overall timings. I was able to gain a fair bit of time through Sector 1 if I could just nail it. You can see down to 6.1 seconds. Got to find about 1.1 seconds is all we've got to find at the end of this one to get into the points after being involved in a first lap incident. So 6 seconds the margin, pushing. The tires starting to wear out, 39%. You start to lose some tire performance on the mediums, around 40% wear, so we are going to start to get some drop off in the overall pace. We're personal best through the first sector, pushing on through the second, although our battery level is quite low. 5.8 seconds now the margin as we head in, still on a personal best lap. But this is where the tire grip is important. This final sector, you really got to hook it up nicely in order to try and close the gap. So straddle the curb, send it in, just about kiss that apex sausage curve. We've gone a little bit deep into the chicane. That's going to cost me some time. It goes from 5.7 to about 5.9 seconds, so about 0.2 of a loss in that chicane. And we are going to flip on the ERS, we do improve. It's a personal best, and now on the final lap, we have to find 1 second of margin. Very little battery left to push on this one, as Cryptic takes the race win, so we were actually very close to being put a lap down in this one, as he was really just lapping much quicker than us. The 5.7 now, the margin. This is where the big chunks of time we've been taking out of Spence. So get to that apex early, swing out wide, get the car rotated, get the power down. 5.6 the margin, a little deep into turn 4, or turn 5 rather. A big snap of oversteer as we get some wheel spin. Still 5.7, so we're just not finding the pace that we need. However, 0.2 just in those corners, down to 5.4, 5.5, and we are catching, burning the last bit of battery that we've got available to us. 5.3, 5.2, we're within about a 1/10. Now it's all or nothing. Just got to try and send it through this final corner. Kiss the inside curve, getting on the throttle, and the back end steps out, and just trying to push on too hard to get that last 1/10 of a second, but it's no big worry. We had plenty of margin to the car behind us. It was really just a send it or nothing kind of situation. So we were either going to make up that last 1/10. It was still a lot, almost 2/10 to find in the last 3 corners. There may have been a chance if I had gotten it just right, but ultimately we finish outside the points in P11 for this one. So one of our more solid qualifying results, starting in 6th, but that first lap incident, not ideal. Habs fan Nick gets the game's driver of the day. We'll have to see where they shook out. In evals and practice races, Nick has been kind of around my pace, so I'm hoping to have a good battle with him throughout this season, as the Haas takes the top step on the championship tables. He's joined, it looks like a double Ferrari podium, so QX Nemesis, LC Fighter are not in the Ferrari, or yes, they are in the Ferraris. They moved out of the Aston Martins. Sorry, had to remember that correctly. Habs fan Nick was in the Ferraris last season. He's now out in the Alfa Romeo. So last season's champion, QX Nemesis, on the podium, as is his teammate. So big moves for the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari already. It's a great start to the start of the season for them, and not such a great start for myself. As we get our sweet unlocks that we pretty much never use in this game, we'll take a look at the final finishing order. Cryptic out front, QX Nemesis and LC Fighter the next two. Queasy Pluto, our teammate, in 4th. Lawrence Boers in 5th place. Habsfan Nick up in 6th with Pepmeister in 7th. Stanier in 8th. That one kid in 9th. Spenwolf rounds out the top 10. We finished P11 with Don Mao, the last finishing runner, in 12th. Issei, Voki, Povey, Vickers, Clapjack, and Chuck SRQ, all of the retirements from this race. But we are coming thick and fast with the races this season. We are headed off to Spa-Francorchamps next week, and it'll be back to back until we have a break after round 6. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.